for the first couple summers, I was living that cycle of working all day. I was usually missing dinner with the family, and I was sometimes missing bedtime. And I repeated that cycle for 3 years like that. And when I was home on the weekends or home during the nights, I was researching
Mm, mm.
or I was texting with customers. I was never ever mentally home with my family. Sorry, this always gets me. I look back at pictures when my kids were little, and I just think like it finally became worth it, but I missed a lot.
Mm, mm.
Especially in the summers when like my wife would take the kids to the park or out to ice cream or like I see those pictures and I get emotional immediately. I still think about it.
Most business advice ignores your family. This podcast doesn't. Welcome to Family Oriented Business Growers. Hey, welcome to all of you, Bandits and Chilies. We've got with us here today Luke Abbott from All Clean Power Wash, and he started from nothing, arguably we could say less than nothing, and has built his business to doing multiple seven figures right now. So hi, Luke, how are you? And thanks for being here.
I appreciate you having me, Mark. Like I was telling you earlier, this is the first time I've had a podcast with somebody outside the States, so it's exciting.
Yeah, like I said, I'm glad to have you, and I'd like to be doing this from the States, but I've got to get there as well. I haven't been to visit yet, so that's on the list for this year.
We gotta get you over here, man.
Yeah, it'll be great. It'll be great. So set the stage for us. Like, tell us about this from starting from nothing, what that meant for you, and where your business is today. What's that journey been like?
Journey has been kind of surreal, and looking back, how fast it has gone. So when you say nothing, I mean, I still had something, right? I had a beautiful wife. I had two amazing children, but I was working as a garbage man before I started in business. And it's when I was working this position, I never knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I never knew that I was going to be owning a company called All Clean Power Wash, being 28 people at the peak of our season and working our way into multi seven figures with two locations coming up this season. If you had told me that back in 2016, I wouldn't even had the mindset or the bandwidth to even think of that type of capacity. So yeah, looking back, man, I always felt like something was missing inside me when I was picking garbage or I was working the other position I had before that. And what happened was there was a major situation in my life at the time that caused me to either fight or lay down and die. And that was when my accountant called me. She had told me that I owed the IRS 15 grand. That was back in 2017. And when I heard that news, I was on vacation with my wife and children. My daughter was 3 years old. My son was 7 months. And my wife was, I didn't tell her the entire time we were down there, too. I got this call like 2 days into the vacation. Didn't tell her one thing, but I was sick to my stomach the entire trip until I got home. And then when I got home, I finally sat her down and told her. So that was ultimately what pushed me to starting this business was the IRS that I had owed money.
So yeah, shout out to the IRS.
Yeah. Thank
But
you.
seriously, it was a catalyst by giving you that like feeling of hitting rock bottom and then being enough. What do they say? That the pain of staying the same, it became greater than the pain to change. So what happened from there? Like, how did you then? Because you said you didn't really know anything about what you were doing. How did you begin your business, and when did the growth start to happen for you?
Yeah, so obviously, like when I got that call and I got home from vacation, I went back to picking garbage, and every single day I was stressed. I was like, I have to figure out how to pay this money back. So it was the pressure washer sitting in my garage one day. I just looked at it because I had pressure washed in my house. I cleaned my concrete, I cleaned my garage, my house, whatever, and I liked doing it. So I looked at it one day and I said, I wonder if I can leverage this piece of equipment to make some money. Then I, called my wife's friend over. She had a marketing degree, had no clue what marketing even was back then. I couldn't even have given you an example of what it was. So she came over, built me a flyer. I got on Facebook. I started using all these free resources to start putting my name out there. I was going by Luke Abbott pressure washing back then. I didn't have insurance. I didn't have a DBA yet, but I had a pressure washer and I had the will to succeed and try. So jobs started rolling in, and it was, one or two jobs a week, turned into 3 or 4 jobs a week to 5 to 7 to 10, and it just kept multiplying from there. And it, I, tr- I finally started to realize what my purpose was and what I was designed for. It was that call that pushed me to find out who I truly was. It was the best mistake I could have ever made was cashing out my 401k and having the IRS down my back was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's how things kind of started spiraling with the
Yeah.
business.
Love it. So dig into that a little bit more because like who are you? What is the identity that revealed to you?
So who I am now is I'm a man of service. I know a lot more about myself than I did back then. That was probably, 9, 10 years ago when I was picking garbage and I felt empty. I now know what my core values are. I know what my mission is, and my mission is to serve people. And that's my family, my coworkers, my customers. In a nutshell, I'm a family man, I'm a healthy man, I'm authentic, and I'm all about achievement. And these are all the things that came to surface about myself after getting into business and really graduating inside this organization.
So yeah, that's really interesting because I feel like something that keeps a lot of people stuck at whatever level that they're at is it's all about our beliefs, what we believe, and what meaning we give to things.
Mhm.
So the belief that you've just sort of stated in that identity is essentially that your success has this ripple out effect where your success benefits you and then your family and your
Mhm.
employees, your clients, your community, right? And if you see that, which is true by the way, unless you're, out there scamming people, that's true for everyone listening as well. If your business is doing what it should be, that's the ripple effect that you have, and you're not helping anyone by playing small. Like if that's a positive ripple effect, throw a bigger rock, make larger ripples. That belief allows you to expand because if you think that you're scamming people, if you think that your success and your growth has a negative impact on someone else, or that like the employees that you bring on are really minions that are enslaved in your evil corporation, then you're
Mhm.
probably not going to do those things because of the fact that you also probably hold the belief that you're a good person, and then this equates you to being a bad person. So
Mhm.
is that something that you have had since the beginning, or is that something that you've grown into where you came to realize along the journey that, hey, actually, when I do this, good things happen?
I have always been somebody who took care of other people before myself. I grew up with amazing, grandparents, parents who I grew up in a restaurant business and I watched my grandparents and my parents take care of people. And that's all I've done my entire life. Like if you, Mark, if you called me and you're like, hey man, I gotta move this weekend. I really, I don't have a friend to help out. I'll be like, tell me the address. I'm there because I truly believe that
Just keep in
it's
mind the address is in Australia, but yeah,
I get you the plane ticket, I will be there and I will help you. But
sounds like
that's
a
just
plan.
how it's how I've lived my entire life is, doing the right thing, good things come back to you. It's as simple
Mm,
as that. And if you live your life with that authentic being of service attitude and you apply it to everything, this is what's happened to my life in this business.
mm,
And I've been able to bring great people on. And going back to what you said about like these evil business owners running evil corporations, if that will get exposed very quickly
mm,
and you will have constant turnover and usually you'll crash and burn. But we've been so lucky and so successful that, when I bring people in, I truly just I'll take care of them. Like they're
mm,
my family, just
mm.
like my customers. And you'll get a much better return from your people by doing so. Yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah,
in a
yeah.
nutshell.
So my point about the evil business owners thing is like obviously that can exist, but my point is that a lot of times people that running a good business think when they start to apply it to this kind of thing and they think about their growth and success, they seem to think that it's this evil enterprise or that it's like that they treat it that way and it holds them back. Can you think back on the journey that you've had and identify any shifts in your beliefs that you've had or anything that you thought at one point you came to realize was not true and then that served you better? From when you started to now, have any of your beliefs around what you're doing and your business have your beliefs shifted?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind was when I first started in business, I was pricing lower. And when I completed a job quicker or I thought I priced the job too high, I used to think about it and I used to have an emotional attachment to it. But I did have a belief shift that when you're building an organization and you're bringing great people on and you're constantly reinvesting back into your business, that when you charge more, you can do better things with it. You
Mm,
can actually take care of your customers better when you charge more. You can take care of your employees better when you charge more. You can have better systems in place when you charge more. So that was a big shift for me in knowing that I am a good person at the end of the day and I am running a good organization, that now it doesn't bother me that I charge more. I want to charge more because I know it's going to the right buckets. It's not
mm,
going in my pockets. It's going to the entire organization and the people we're taking care of outside of the organization. Because we do a lot of give backs too to the community and people in need. So yeah, that was a big belief and mindset shift that happened throughout the process of the business growing.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And yeah, another one that I think would resonate with a lot of people is that whole rat's nest of beliefs around pricing and what we make that mean. Um, Now, earlier you mentioned the word capacity,
Mhm.
in how I think that the 2016 version of yourself, you said, would not even be able to fathom the capacity of what you're currently doing. So, what does that mean to you? Because I think that's a really interesting way to put it.
It just boils down to the fact of inexperience, being somewhere you've never been. You don't know what you don't know. And even, from 2017 when I started to 2018, I learned something. From 2018 to 19, I learned
Mm.
something. 19, 20, 2021. Every year, as a business owner, you should be learning and growing and increasing your capacity as your business grows. I call it the graduation levels inside of your business is truly what it comes down to. Yeah, it's just not knowing what the future holds, but being willing to accept the failure and the mistakes and the learning moments and putting yourself out there, listening to podcasts, reading books, putting yourself in rooms with people that you've never been around, really uncomfortable situations. I'm a huge advocate for that. I have put myself, since I started this business, in rooms with people, on stages, on podcasts, in front of my camera. And I'm constantly putting myself in those uncomfortable positions because that's where growth happens too.
Yeah, yeah. That ties in with something that you'd mentioned before we started recording as well, which I wanted to come back to, which was you said that your willingness to fail was
Mhm.
something that's really served you well in your business. So there's kind of a couple of parts to that. Like, first of all, why do you think a lot of people might not have that same willingness to fail that you do? And how has it served you well?
Yeah, everybody has like a risk tolerance level. Before I got in business, I was an adrenaline junkie. I loved like riding motocross bikes, crotch rockets. I was that guy hanging stand-up wheelies 100 miles per hour down the road. I got into a bad way of alcohol and cocaine use throughout my 20s. So like I put myself through some stuff before I got into business. And when it came to business, when it came to spending money on a certain thing that might get me from A to B, it was no problem to me. It was like, all right, let's spend it. Or this seems like a great hire. Let's hire. This looks like a great software. Let's try it. I couldn't do things fast enough
Mm,
because that was my personality. I loved speed. I loved adrenaline. And the business gives me that. Now, not everybody's built like that. There's other people who are a little bit more calculated, a little bit more safe. And it's not that they can't take risk. Sometimes certain people get, kind of caught in this like stranglehold of, I don't know what way I need to go. And then they stay stuck and they don't pick a direction at all. And that's the worst thing you can do.
yeah,
Risk
yeah.
tolerance level. Everybody has their own risk tolerance level.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you said about like you love speed because Joshua Latimer says that money loves speed as well,
Yeah.
right? So that willingness to just make quick decisions
Yeah.
leads you to even if it takes you like 5 wrong decisions to get to the right one, you're still going to get to the right one faster because you were just like going through the process quicker. Yeah. So that willingness to fail kind of implies like a bit of, I guess, trusting your gut and going in with that decision, thinking it's the best one right now in the moment, but then kind of just being like willing to see how that plays out, see what happens. Is that a fair comment?
100% fair comment. I mean, yeah, I've had major strong gut feelings like this is the right move to make. I've had feelings where I don't know if this is the right move to make. And I've had moments where my team makes decisions and I
Mm.
don't know if it's the right move to make, but you have to trust the process.
Yeah.
And, there are ways to mitigate risk, but risk truly is one of the main reasons how we have been able to get where we are as an organization.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's why that's that being a business owner involves an outsized risk
Mhm.
in pursuit of an outsized reward. That's like the whole thing. Yeah,
There is like if you keep making the same mistake over 2, 3 times over, that is not the correct risk. If you make the mistake once and you learn from it, move on. But when you make the same mistake over, that is insanity.
yeah, yeah. Love it, love it. So, okay, that willingness to fail, you just expanded that onto allowing your team to make decisions. Let's
Yes.
tie that back into capacity. Is that something that was really hard for you initially and that you had to kind of grow into to allow, like, kind of to delegate that risk process? Like, you have your own high risk tolerance, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, but now they're the ones making a decision and a call. Was that a bit of a process for you?
Honestly, it wasn't too tough of a process for me because the people I bring into this organization are most times a lot of people I start building relationships with outside when I'm like communicating
Mm,
with people. And I bring them in because I trust them,
yeah,
for one. I bring them into my team. They're part of my family, and I have to allow them to make decisions. Like, I don't want to run, dictatorship here. Yes, I do make the final say, but I don't always want to have to make the final say on the little micro, situations that are constantly happening every day in business.
yeah,
So it's what I would say to a business owner out there is if you really are relying on your team and you're hiring people and you're vetting these people and you trust these people to come into your walls, you need to trust them to make some decisions. And then if they don't make the right decision and it doesn't pan out in the right way, then you have a conversation about it and you talk about it and you coach them up and you figure out the next pathway. It should never be like, if you're allowing your team to make a decision too, you can't necessarily take it out on them if it doesn't go right.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
100%. Because they need to have that freedom to fail in order to make the decision in the first place. Like, if they think, if I make this decision and it goes sideways, I'm going to lose my job. They're just not going to make the decision. And then it's going to come back to you and you're going to have to be there on all the micro decisions throughout the day because they don't feel empowered to make a decision. So you said before we started recording that I asked you like what your superpower was, and you said recruitment and leadership, which I think ties in really well with this. So maybe
yeah,
talk through what your recruitment process looks like and how you have come to be the leader that you are.
yeah. I mean, before I even got in business, I loved camaraderie. I loved, when I was in my senior year of high school, I was the guy throwing parties at my dad's house when he went away on to his girlfriend's house on Friday nights. So I loved having people around me, good people around me, and then showing them a good time and putting on a show. So when it came to business, that's all I'm doing. I mean, I'm just being myself. I'm bringing great people in, and everywhere I go, I'm constantly talking to people. There was at one point I had a membership to 3 different gyms because the gyms are where I find a lot of great technicians.
Yeah.
This season, I just pulled 2 more out of the gym that I've been going to the last couple years, and it's all by using my mouth and talking to these people. And the first office manager I brought in that truly helped grow us into the 7 figures, I met her at the bank. She was my bank teller when I went in and did deposits.
Mm.
So when I see a certain spark in somebody or if I see potential in somebody, I am so consistent and persistent with them that it's almost they have to say yes to me at some point.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say that in like a cocky way, but I'll give you an example. There's this kid that just came on board with us this season. He's starting a year and a half ago. He told me no, that he was pursuing other things, but I saved his name in my phone as his name, all clean question mark. Anytime I have a question mark next to somebody, I constantly follow up with them throughout the year. Hey, how's it going, man? Did you find that thing you're looking at? Whatever. So this last time, a month ago, I sent him a text. I said, listen, man, I have 3 spots left this season for wash technicians, and I'd really love to have you on board. What do you say we give it a shot this year? Got him.
Yeah.
So That is just who I am, man. Like all day, every day, I'm constantly watching people. I'm talking to people. I'm getting phone numbers, keeping them in my phone. I'm keeping them in the back of my mind, and I love it. And it's the same thing. I obviously worked sales in my own organization. I was doing the same thing with customers, but now I'm just doing it with internal customers,
Yeah.
employees.
Yeah, love it. I want to come and hit the gym with you because most people don't want to talk to anyone in the gym, right? Like it's like most people it's like, oh, you just get in, you kick
Yeah,
yourself, you do your thing, you go, and you're out here buying like 3 different gym memberships so that you can go and talk
yeah,
to people that are at different gyms.
yeah,
But it's super effective because like when you think about it, people at gyms, right? They are self-motivated. They're driven, and there's certain mindsets that go along with that, and
mhm,
you can see a lot of that on display just by the fact that they're there, and then by how they're showing up when they're there. So
yeah,
yeah, that's going to be way more informative than average job interview is. I'm curious, do you have anything in place for recruitment outside of yourself? Because that really sounds like it's all like tethered to you. Do you at
yeah.
any point like run job ads and get people in otherwise, or is it just like you're like just headhunting constantly?
Yeah, so like when I'm really headhunting for technicians,
Yeah.
because this business, its heartbeat is the technicians.
Mm,
Like you
mm,
are only as strong as your technicians are inside a service business.
yeah.
We can have all the admin we want, but if we don't
Mm,
have great technicians out there performing revenue every single day at a high volume, then how do you keep the admin positions fulfilled, right? So when it came to the admin positions, yeah, there's quite a few of them that I did bring in, like our production manager. I met him at gymnastics that my daughter goes to. GM, he's a GM for a hotel. Like he's got a lot of experience in like the corporate world. So he brought a lot of his knowledge over and implemented systems and structure in our production department.
mm,
But I have used Indeed. When it comes to our dispatcher, our sales representatives, like we've used Indeed for some ads, social media for some ads, and then the team has assisted on the interview and the onboarding process with that too. So it's not just all me, but I would say 80 to 90% of it is definitely me driving the
yeah.
driving force.
Yeah, yeah. I can only imagine. Maybe you can paint a bit of a picture on what this looks like on the other side of that, because that process is, I want to say it's unique, and it feels like it shouldn't be. It feels like that should be like the kind of default thing that people do even before Indeed. But it feels like it's unique, especially at your scale, that that's what's happening, like just kind of across the board. And because it is based on headhunting, some spark that you've seen in someone that has prompted you to have that conversation and to then follow up with them and whatever, when you're bringing these people onto your team, what does that create in your team that is really unique?
It's so unique because a lot of these guys they just have a lot of the same kind of characteristics, the same
Yeah.
kind of outside hobbies. They're hunters, they work out, they start young families. So when you bring this dynamic into these walls and you protect that, and you have just nothing but great people around you, people that aren't doing drugs, they're not staying out all night, they're not coming to work, you know, half-assed, no energy. That's what I'm protecting big
Mm,
time.
mm,
Because we have had some slouches come in here that we've let kind of come in and gave them a shot. And usually what happens is they start out with a spark,
mm.
and then you see that kind of fizzle out, and then you start seeing it way down on the senior or master technician in the truck with them.
Yeah,
And that is something that I will not allow. As soon as that happens, they're out the door so fast. And then it creates a lot of respect, inside this organization. When the A players know that we are
yeah.
watching out with them, it is so huge.
The culture of your business really impacts what is allowed to stand. Like culture and standards kind of go hand in glove. And
Mhm.
if you have somebody who's like below standard coming into the business, that they're like basically going to be filtered out as a culture fit. Like it's going to be like they're a culture
Yeah.
misfit. It's not going to stand. But on the flip side, if you were to allow it to stand, if you allow them to stay when they're being a drain on everyone else, then that's going to start festering its own sort of side culture where like this, not use too graphic language, and we're talking about people here, but like it's kind of like an infection, right? Where now
100.
other people are going to see, well, hey, if Joe can get away with that, why am I working so hard over here if this is tolerated, you know? So what about like moving on from recruitment more into leadership? Like once the people are on your team, what are you doing with them in that space that might be a little bit different to what people are typically thinking of with leadership?
Well, like a great leader to me, in my opinion, is bring in the energy and the coachability, the accountability. Someone that can be there that they can look to as, strong advocate for the brand, and someone who's willing to, lead at the helm. And I am that, and I will, and I did it, with my team thus far and still going. I never knew or looked into what leadership really was. Leadership is a very like vast,
Mm,
kind of term, in my opinion. And there's a lot of qualities that make up a great leader. And, just a few of them are some that I just recited. But, there's so many times where people think being a great leader is knowing everything. And I will be the first one to tell you, like, I don't know everything. And
mm,
the team also, I will tell them I don't know everything, but trusting my team, and then, knowing and seeing that I am allowing myself to be vulnerable with them is huge. It shows them that I am a real person at the end of the day. And I'm
yeah.
not like a tyrant at the front of the ship waving a wand saying this has to be, I hope that explains everything. But
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, for sure, for sure. What about like conflict resolution, that kind of stuff, like with difficult conversations that you just mentioned about like employees that you did have to let go, giving people chances, assessing whether to give them another chance, that maybe that kind of more difficult stuff. Can you talk us through how you handle it, but even below that, like how you approach it? Yeah.
yeah, I guess it depends on the situation, right? I'll give you two examples. So, like, if we have employees, constantly calling into work or they're showing up a little late, like, there's a step process, right, for
Mm,
like dings, and there's records being had, and three strikes, you're out type of deal, or three strikes and you go onto a pit plan. So that's one way we go about it. The other way is if a technician kind of screws up in the field, it's pulled in for a meeting, and we have a field service supervisor in place that will have this meeting. And if it's like, it depends on the severity. If it's something that was severe and it was a major catastrophe, then I will sit in on it too, along with my production manager and the field service supervisor. But usually, if it's coachable, we'll coach it. If not, they will be coached out the door. Usually that coaching out the door always ends up being that the values aren't aligning with the organization.
yeah.
Uh, and if it's just something that they need extra work on, like, as far as like the work goes and working a little bit better, their attention to detail, we'll work with them on that, right? There's a plan in place to help them get up to speed. But then if they just can't get up to speed, maybe this isn't the right career for them too at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
it just depends on the situation at hand, how we go about approaching it.
Yeah, no, love it. And then maybe the flip side of that is when you have someone coming in on like a technician role and you're working with them over time and then looking to get them into a, like, say, lead technician role or some other higher position to hire internally. What's your approach to how you're coaching people through that in kind of leadership and development?
Yeah, so like 3 years ago, we didn't have any type of ladder in place for, when I had interviews with people and I kind of preached our mission, that was it. Like, hey, you're coming in as a junior tech, and then you can make senior tech. And that was it.
Yeah.
So I was thinking to myself one day, I'm like, this doesn't make sense because we have two-man trucks and one-man trucks. So what happened is I created a step program, an apprenticeship program. Also, when we had just juniors and seniors, we had no form of grading. We had no form of how do we let this person go if they're
Mm,
messing up, right? Like
mm,
that was a hard conversation when, let's say, a senior tech was saying a new guy wasn't cutting it after 60 days. It
mm.
was like, all right, well, you kind of suck, so we got to let you go.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit more formal than that. But that's why we created this whole apprenticeship program and the whole ladder system. So now we have,
So now you can define what kind of suck means.
yeah, well, it makes
We
the
have
conversation
metrics,
way
we have
easier.
data,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
suck exactly this amount.
Yeah. So we have a very open conversation when people come in the door now. It's like, hey, you're starting out as an apprentice, you're on probation for 90 days. And while you're
Mm,
on probation, you're being graded every single week and month. You can graduate early if you're phenomenal, right? Like 30 days. But again, we have this grading process now. So, by the time 60 days comes or 90 days and you're not doing so great,
Mm.
it's an
Mm.
easy conversation to have when you have all of the records of their probation, right?
Yeah.
So, and then when they make, let's say they graduate, they're going from apprentice to junior technician. So their pay wage goes up and they now have access to the bonus program that we have. And then
Mm.
after a year of service, can make it to a senior, which is another bump in pay. You're working on larger projects. And then another year after that is master technician. So it goes
Mm.
by the year. And we figured after 3 years of service with us, you're going to be very well experienced. You're working on large commercial projects. The next level after that is field service supervisor.
Yeah. 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 I love it. One of the things I like to say is that in order to find great employees, you have to define great employees. And
Mhm.
so just to kind of scale back the process that you've got for like the simplest version of that to someone who's maybe just starting out, like they've got
Mhm.
like a couple of employees that are looking to hire their first employee. It's really what you've got going on there is just really an advanced version of having the conversation of expectations in advance and
Right.
saying, this is what the job is. This is what we
Yeah.
expect. This is what success looks like. This is what doesn't cut it. And so then later when you're revisiting it on any issues, you're just referring to the conversation that was already open.
Yes.
But that all starts with like defining what that even looks like. And a lot of
Right.
people, when they're starting out, don't even get that step in place. And so then it becomes, yeah, really, really difficult to have any kind of conversations around it.
Yes.
If you were to go back and like, let's just say that you had like a couple of minutes or something to talk to, you can pick a time, whether it's the 2017 or the 2019 version of Luke, but you were to go back and just give some advice. What would come to mind?
Oh my God. Oh man, so the 2017 Luke was working by himself. The 2019 Luke had one employee, but also working a full-time job and running the business. Oh boy, Vice. That is a loaded question, man. You really threw that on me. Probably putting myself in rooms and putting myself out there more sooner, putting myself in uncomfortable situations sooner, because I really didn't start pushing myself until like the year 21, 22, where I really started going to events out of state and
Mm,
putting myself in front of the camera and all that. But again, it's very hard to look back and say that that's what I should have done because I was so freaking busy. Like
yeah,
my wife at one point was like, "You have to pick one or the other. I can't do this forever,"
yeah,
because I was not physically or mentally home at
mm,
all.
yeah,
So I was burning the candle at both ends, literally, to build this
yeah,
thing. And
yeah.
that brings up a great, like, kind of topic is like living your life out of balance. Everybody talks about it, like living your life out of balance. And some people might think they are, but dude, I know what living your life out of balance really means. It can cause a lot of like havoc on your married life, your children's lives. And yeah, it's just and that's why I worked so hard those first few years, is because I
Mm.
knew it would pay off eventually.
Yeah, yeah. That's that's interesting that you say that's why, because I think that's the struggle that a lot of people have. Like the reason that their life is out of balance or that their business is not serving their family, but instead they're serving their business. The reason for that is often because they're trying to do the right thing by their family, but they're like sacrificing their family to do it for that season, right? And in your case, whilst it sounds like there was a period of time where it was like, okay, this is getting out of hand, it has paid off. But what does the difference between those two pictures look like for you? Like your experience of when the business was not serving your family and instead you
Mhm.
were in servitude to the business. Now the business is serving your family. What's the difference between those and how that looks in terms of how you're able to show up for your family? And what was
Yeah.
the biggest single thing that made the difference that actually helped you to make that shift?
So from 2017 to 2019, I was very heavily involved with doing the work and still working my full-time job.
Mm,
So my days consisted of me getting up at 5 in the morning. I had to start leaving to my day job at 5:30, and I started picking garbage by 6 a.m. Did that till 2:30 in the afternoon. And then if I had a job after work or an estimate, that's what I was doing. So for the first couple summers, I was living that cycle of working all day. I was usually missing dinner with the family, and I was sometimes missing bedtime. And I repeated that cycle for 3 years like that. And when I was home on the weekends or home during the nights, I was researching
Mm, mm,
or I was texting with customers. I was never, ever mentally home with my family. Sorry. This always
mm,
gets me. I look back at pictures when my kids were little and I just think like it finally became worth it, but I missed a lot,
mm, mm.
especially in the summers when my wife would take the kids to the park or out to ice cream or like I see those pictures and I get emotional immediately. I still think about it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So in 2019, my wife finally said like you got to pick one. It was because she was doing it all, man. She was working as a nurse. And then when she went
Mm,
home, she had the kids. They were little and she was cooking dinners and taking care of all of their needs and taking care of the home while I was out running around building this thing. And I looked at her that night and I said, "Well, I'm not giving up pressure washing, so forget about that." And I said it like very like in a snarky way. And then, she wasn't wrong for telling me that. Like she was burnt out too. We were
mm,
both burnt out. So I told her, "I will make it work, I promise. I
mm,
promise you one day it's going to pay off." Said that very distinctly. So what I did was, is I worked harder. I worked
mm,
harder at figuring out ways to remove myself out of the business. That 2019, my first hire, Jonathan, was so crucial. And I tell people this all the time. Your first hire is so, so crucial that they have the same mission and values and the willingness to be dependable. And I just trusted Jonathan so hardcore that he was able to go out while I was working my day job. And then when I got out of work, I was doing a little bit of sales. And then I just kept domino effecting, adding
mm,
in great technicians. And then I finally brought in an office manager. And that was the huge pivot right there, that
mm,
office manager, because now I wasn't taking phone calls. She was taking all the calls, selling over the phone, handling the admin side of the
mm.
business, while I was out solely just selling and
Yeah.
like managing the operations with the technicians. So then from that point on, that's when I really started to look at, okay, this is becoming a real thing and this is doable. And my beliefs started really gaining confidence that I can do this. So I just kept bringing in great people and figuring out ways to delegate and remove myself from that task that either A, I don't like doing, or B, I wasn't doing it and I knew it needed to be done. So I just kept doing that at every single level to the point where I am now. And I work probably still like 20 to 30 hours a week. And it's kind of built out strategically throughout my day, but I'm never missing events.
Mm,
I am never missing dinners when we're having them. I can go pick up my kids out of school when I want. It's just I have this, they call it freedom, but I have a schedule that works for me now.
yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what life looks like now
Yeah.
compared to then.
Yeah. 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 No, thanks very much for sharing that. And yeah, that struggle is really real, like the time that you don't get back. But at the same time, a lot of people get caught in this. And then when you're in that 2017 to 2019 like stage, it's sort of like it's hopes and dreams, but you don't actually know how it's going to work out. And so to get through that and to, yeah, that's a really huge deal. In the course of that, what have you found has helped you to context switch? So, like for example, if you've got stuff going on at work and you're trying to come home and take the work hat off and put the dad hat on or the
Yeah.
husband hat on or whatever it is, what helps you? Do you have any like systems or rituals around that or anything that you're like telling yourself that helps you to just like step into being husband, father, that role? That is a great question if I don't say so myself. Can't wait to hear the answer in like 14 seconds from now. Just wanted to jump in and let you know about the free time audit designed specifically to save 5 hours per week for parents running cleaning businesses. It takes about 2 minutes to complete and you get your time-saving results straight away. To get your free time audit, join our Facebook group via warplan.au, link in the description. Now, what was that cliffhanger question again? What helps you? Do you have any like systems or rituals around that or anything that you're like telling yourself that helps you to just like step into being husband, father, that role?
You know, when I'm home, I'm definitely much more mentally present than I ever was, but I still don't ever fully turn off business because I truly like this business is my hobby too at the same
Mm,
time. Like I
mm,
love business. I love figuring out strategy. Now, when I'm home, it's just being very self-aware of where my phone is.
Yeah.
Put it down and just focusing on what's in front of me at home. And I'm also not like I would probably say that when I was doing sales, that was like one of the hardest things ever to shut my mind off at home because when I'm delegating that task off and that department off of me was huge, even though I loved it so much. The high of the sale, I love it in the chase. But that was truly most times what was keeping me mentally not home was when I was talking to like 5 to 10 different customers or on the phone or trying to cut deals through text messages. That was like probably the biggest shift for me is completely getting rid of the sales department off of my plate so that I could be mentally present at home.
Mm.
Now it's just few and far when I'm home. My operations manager will call me about something that he's thinking about wanting to implement. We'll talk about it, and then boom, we're done. Then I'm back focused at home. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
self-aware and prioritizing, the tasks.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. My wife has called me out on this a few times as well, where one of the struggles that I had, kind of similar to that in terms of the context switch, was when a message would come through from the team in our group chat or in anything similar to that, I would feel the need to jump in straight away and solve it. So they, like, in my head, it's like they need to feel supported. And there was this one time in particular where it was something I couldn't do anything about. But I was like straight on it to reply with like something, just like the essence of support, even though I wasn't
Yeah.
actually going to be able to fix the problem. And she just said to me, she's like, what are you going to do? Like, just leave it. They'll sort it out. It'll be fine. You don't need to be involved in that right now. And
Yeah.
she was right. It's like, yeah. And if I have that identity level thing and that belief level thing around, I need to be the one to appear to solve this problem, even when I'm not going to be the one to solve the problem. I want to like
Right.
appear like I'm the one that's solving this problem. That's not actually helping anyone, and it's allowing that like work to creep in unnecessarily and just push past an extra boundary where it's like
Mhm.
one wasn't actually called for. It didn't actually need to be taking up that bandwidth and that time.
I'm sure that that's just part of you wanting to help too, right? You want to help the
Yeah,
team,
yeah,
not knowing that like you could be kind of handicapping them a little bit by not allowing them to make decisions.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. A lot of the time, the reason like for something is also the reason against something. Like, like that. We want to help, and so one path towards that is quick respond to the message, and the other path is, well, don't. Just let them sort it out. Like, just trust the process, like you were saying earlier.
I've definitely had we use WhatsApp to communicate in different
Yeah,
departments in our organization, and there's definitely been conversations this year where my production manager, my office manager, and my operations manager will be talking about something they're trying to figure out, and I will literally say, "I'm curious to see what you guys figure out," and
yeah,
just leave it at that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
challenging them.
Yeah, that's a great line. I reckon if you use that line enough, it will become a huge part of like your internal like business personal branding. They'll just be like, yeah, they'll be like doing quiet satire on the side. Like Luke will be curious to see, which
Yeah,
is great, right?
yeah,
Because it's an empowering statement.
yeah, yeah, man.
Fantastic. Any closing thoughts from your end of what you would like to leave another business owner that might be like struggling a couple of chapters behind where you are? Something that might give them a bit of hope, some food for thought, a lesson that you've learned, anything like that.
Well, oh boy, a lot of lessons learned. It always goes back to being willing to take risk, being willing to fail and learn from those moments, but also like keep going and not quitting. There's probably been 1,000 times where the normal person would have quit. 2023, the winter of 2023 going into 2024 was the hardest winter I have ever experienced where I felt actual stress.
Mm,
And what happened was is we ran out of money. We have 9 months where I'm located to really capitalize on revenue.
mm,
And then we have 3 months of non-revenue producing months. So when you're really growing as fast as we are and reinvesting back into the business and keeping people on, it sucks a lot of cash flow. So at the time, I was reaching out to banks. I got denied by like three of them for an increase on our line of credit that season.
mm.
And what I will say to anybody out there listening is don't ever take your first no, your second no, your third no, or your fourth. Always keep going for yes because we finally got a yes. We got an increase. It saved us. We're more profitable now. We made adjustments following that year. We started watching our numbers, started having monthly P&L meetings, built out budgets the next 2 seasons, and we are healthier now and we're prospering. So that is one thing I would say is when you feel like you're at your end, you're not. You can always figure out a new strategy or a way to make it happen. That is one quote that I have on our walls is just make it happen.
Mm.
It's as simple as that. Taking action and making it happen. Don't settle on the first no. That's what I'll leave that.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Thanks very much for your time, Luke. It's been awesome.
I appreciate it, Mark. You're the man. This was great.
If you enjoyed this conversation, you'll love our Facebook group for parents running cleaning businesses. Easiest way to find it is via warplan.au. Catch you in there.